Stories whisper, stories keep. The fire burns, but you won't sleep. Camp creeps, camp creeps.
They say the lake's alive, not like a fish or a frog, not breathing like that. It breathes like you do, slow, steady. If you stand close enough, you can feel it. The air move against your skin, the water ripple in time with your lungs. And if you stay too long, if you breathe with it for just a little too long, it starts breathing through you. Welcome back to Camp Creeps. Harold Finch was not the kind of man anyone noticed. 53, retired from a job he couldn't stand, he'd moved to the small lakeside town of Hawthorne Hollow after his wife passed. He told himself he liked the quiet, but really, he just wanted to disappear somewhere. No one asked how he was holding up. The locals were polite, distant, the kind of people who said mornin', but didn't ask your name. His cabin sat at the edge of the water, barely held together by humidity and neglect, and every night he sat on the porch and listened. The lake never went still, not once. Even when the air was calm, the water shifted, a constant rhythmic movement that didn't match the wind. It pulsed, drew in, pushed out, almost like lungs. He first noticed it one night in July when the crickets stopped chirping and the only sound was that soft, slow breathing of the water against the dock. In, out, in, out. The ripples came in perfect time with his own chest. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and held his breath just to test it. The lake went still. When he exhaled, it started again. A laugh escaped him, nervous, embarrassed. "Christ, Harold," he muttered, rubbing his eyes. "You're losing it." But he didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, he went for a swim. The water was cold, clean, deeper than it looked. When he dove, it pressed against his skin with strange warmth, not sunlight, but something from beneath. He swam out until the cabin was a blur, then flipped onto his back, floating, eyes closed. The rhythm came back. In, out. The waves brushed against him in perfect sync with his breath. He floated there for minutes, maybe hours, until something brushed his foot. He jerked upright, looking down. The surface was smooth. No bubbles, no fish, no movement at all. But he could have sworn it grabbed him. Just for a second. That night when he undressed for bed, he noticed his fingertips were still pruned, wrinkled like he'd just come out of the bath, though he hadn't touched the water since morning. He pressed them against his pillow. They left damp prints. By the third week, the water had become routine. Harold swam every morning now. It felt good, clean, peaceful. The cold didn't bother him anymore. In fact, he didn't really feel it. The water wrapped around him like air, like it wanted him there. He told himself it was exercise. That's what he said if anyone asked. Not that anyone really did. The woman at the corner store, Mrs. Holbrook, had started looking at him funny, though. When he came in for groceries, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're getting a little pale there, Mr. Finch," she said one morning, scanning his bread and canned soup. "You all right?" He looked down at his hands. The skin was pale, not the kind of pale that comes from age or sun, but translucent. He could see faint veins beneath the surface, pulsing faintly like water under ice. "Just need some sun," he muttered, forcing a smile. She hesitated, bagging his things slower than usual. "You ought to stay out of that lake. Folks around here don't swim much anymore." "Why's that?" Her mouth twitched. "Water's strange. Always moving, even when it shouldn't." He chuckled. "That's nature for you." But as he turned to leave, she added quietly, "Nature don't breathe, Mr. Finch." That night he dreamed he was underwater, not drowning, floating. The surface above him rippled with moonlight, his body weightless. He opened his mouth, expecting to choke, but air filled his lungs just the same. Something moved below him, vast, slow, and gentle. Not a fish, not a current, something bigger. It moved in time with his chest. When he woke, his throat burned. His pillow was soaked. He sat up, coughing, deep, wet, from somewhere low in his chest. A thin stream of clear water dripped from his lips onto the sheets. He stared at it for a long time. It smelled like algae. The next day, he went back to the lake. He told himself it was to prove he wasn't scared, but the truth was simpler. He missed it. The closer he got, the easier he could breathe. The weight in his chest lifted with every step. When he reached the dock, the water was already rippling, though the air was still. In, out, in, out. He knelt, staring into the surface. His reflection stared back, pale, eyes darker than before, lips slightly blue. "Why do I keep coming here?" he whispered. The water responded with a small, soft ripple that brushed his fingertips. When he leaned closer, the reflection moved before he did. It smiled. It had been 5 days since the reflection smiled back. Harold told himself he'd imagined it, a trick of light, exhaustion, something reasonable. But the image stayed with him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that other version of himself just beneath the surface, pale, still, patient. He didn't go swimming again, for a while anyway, but it was hard not to think about the lake. He could hear it even from inside the cabin, a faint slosh beneath the floorboards, like the water was shifting closer, creeping up the shore inch by inch. Sometimes, at night, he could feel it. The boards under his bed would groan softly, slow and even, in rhythm with his breath. He started sleeping less. When he did, he dreamed of water filling the cabin, not flooding, just seeping in, rising calmly until it reached his mouth. He didn't fight it. In the dreams, breathing water felt right. By the 6th night, the dreams began to bleed into waking life. He was standing at the sink, shaving, when he noticed his reflection blink slower than he did. The mirror fogged up from his breath, but the reflection kept breathing after he stopped. He wiped the glass. His reflection smiled again. That night, the air smelled faintly of algae. He opened the window. The lake was a mirror, perfectly still, except for one single ripple moving outward, like something beneath had just exhaled. The dock creaked once. Harold's heart hammered. "Who's there?" No answer. He stared at the water until his eyes ached. The surface was perfectly black, no moonlight breaking it. Then, slowly, something began to glow beneath, faint bluish light swirling like mist under the surface. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He should have run. He didn't. He found himself stepping outside, barefoot, the boards cold under his feet. The closer he got, the louder his pulse became, until he realized it wasn't his heart. It was the lake's. It was calling him. He knelt at the edge of the dock. "What do you want?" The water quivered. Tiny ripples spread outward. Then, softly, it breathed in. The air around him shifted, pulled toward the lake. His chest tightened like he'd been caught in an invisible tide. His next breath came through waterlogged air, heavy, humid, filled with the scent of rot and mud. He backed away, gasping, but the feeling didn't leave. His lungs hurt. They burned, like something had moved inside them. He collapsed against the wall of the cabin, coughing hard enough to see stars. Water poured from his mouth. Not a trickle, a steady stream, clear and cold, flooding down his shirt, pooling on the floor. When it stopped, he was trembling. His chest felt hollow, empty. He looked down. His skin shimmered faintly in the lamplight, slick with moisture that wouldn't dry. He pressed a hand to his chest. For a moment, he thought he could feel something moving under his ribs, something that wasn't his. He didn't sleep that night. When dawn came, he found himself sitting at the edge of the dock again, staring at his reflection. It didn't blink. He leaned closer, whispering, "What are you?" The reflection tilted its head. Water rippled, breaking its face into pieces. Then the surface smoothed, and its mouth moved. It didn't make a sound, but Harold understood anyway. "Come home." He staggered back, his heels slipping on the wet boards. The dock groaned, not from weight, but from something underneath it. A low, muffled creak that sounded almost like a sigh. The lake inhaled. The air around him grew warm and wet. The surface bulged upward slightly, as though the water was trying to take shape, reaching toward him. He turned and ran. Inside, he locked the door, heart pounding. But the sound followed, soft and rhythmic, like something breathing through the walls. And somewhere in the pipes, deep in the plumbing, he could hear it. Water shifting, gurgling, crawling upward. By nightfall, every faucet in the house was dripping in time with his pulse. In, out, in, out. By the next evening, Harold had given up trying to stay dry. No matter how many towels he used, no matter how long he stood in front of the heater, his skin was always damp. He'd wipe his arms, and a fine sheen of moisture would reappear within seconds, like the air itself was condensing on him. He told himself he'd leave in the morning, drive into town, check into a motel, get away from the lake for a few days. But he didn't pack. Instead, he sat by the window, staring through the fogged glass, watching the black water pulse under the moon. He told himself he hated it, but deep down, a quieter thought moved beneath the surface of his mind, a thought that didn't sound like his own voice anymore. "It misses you." He blinked hard, shaking his head. "No," he whispered. "I'm done." The floorboards answered with a long, slow creak. He could feel moisture seeping up between the cracks in the wood. Tiny beads forming, pooling, spreading. They weren't coming from above, but rising from below. Harold backed away, heart racing. The air felt heavy again, each breath thick and warm, like the inside of someone's mouth. The lamp flickered once, twice, then went out. The only sound was the steady drip of water from the ceiling. He stepped into the kitchen. The sink was running, a thin stream of water, even though the handle was off. He turned it tighter. The water stopped. Then, before he could move, the drain gurgled. From deep within the pipe came a low, wet sound, not quite a growl, not quite a moan, like something sighing in satisfaction. The faucet opened on its own. A long breath escaped it, deep, slow, wet, as though the lake itself were exhaling through his house. Harold stumbled backward. His foot hit something soft. He looked down. The rug was soaked, the water spreading fast across the floor. But it wasn't just pooling. It was crawling. Thin streams moved in slow lines toward him, merging, thickening, dragging themselves across the boards like fingers. He turned and ran for the door. When he pulled it open, the fog outside was dense, solid, almost tangible. The lake was only a few yards away, but the waterline had risen. It lapped against the first step of the porch. "God," he whispered. The surface rippled in time with his words. He took a step back and heard another breath, perfectly synchronized with his own. In, out, in, out. His reflection shimmered in the water below, though he wasn't close enough to see it clearly. And yet somehow it moved, matching his breath, tilting its head when he did, smiling faintly. He turned to go back inside, but his hand wouldn't release the doorknob. His fingers had fused slightly, thin webs of skin between them, translucent and glistening. He gasped, pulling hard. The skin stretched, then tore with a slick sound. Clear water dripped from the wound instead of blood. He stared at it, trembling. "What are you doing to me?" The lake rippled again, small concentric circles spreading outward, pulsing like the beat of a heart. He could feel it inside him now, a steady rhythm in his chest that wasn't his own. He stumbled down the steps, knees buckling. The water reached for him, touching his feet, his ankles, his knees. Warm, so warm it almost hurt. The moment it touched his skin, the pain vanished. His breathing steadied. The voice came again, not out loud, but from inside him. "Breathe, with me." He shook his head, crying, "No!" The lake inhaled. His body followed without permission. The pull was irresistible, a deep pressure in his lungs, his stomach, his spine. His body bent forward as though his breath belonged to something else. He tried to step back, but the water moved with him, rising, clinging, wrapping around his legs like soft muscle. He looked down. The water wasn't clear anymore. It was darker now, thick, filled with fine threads that shimmered faintly like veins. They pulsed. One brushed his wrist, curling around it with delicate care. It didn't hurt. It just held him, gently. He could hear it. A whisper, faint and close. "It's okay. You're tired. Let me breathe for you." He opened his mouth to scream, but only bubbles came out. The last sound he heard before the water reached his chin was a heartbeat, deep, slow, patient, echoing from beneath the surface. Not his, the lake's. The water welcomed him. That was the first thought that crossed his mind. Not panic, not fear, just welcome. It didn't feel like drowning. It felt like coming home. The surface slid over his head in a single, silent motion. No splash, no struggle, just stillness. The world above the lake disappeared. All that remained was the slow pulse of blue light beneath him, like veins glowing through deep skin. It moved in rhythm with him, or he moved in rhythm with it. He wasn't sure anymore. He could breathe. That was wrong, impossible, but he could. Each breath drew in water that tasted faintly of iron and something sweet. It filled his lungs and then left again, clear and clean. The ache in his chest was gone. He drifted downward, pulled by something soft and invisible. The deeper he went, the warmer it got. The pressure wrapped around him like an embrace. Shapes moved below, slow, rolling shapes that looked alive. He realized as his eyes adjusted that they were people, bodies, dozens of them, suspended in the dark. They weren't decayed or bloated. They were whole, pale, their hair drifting like weeds. Each one's chest rose and fell in time with the lake's pulse. He tried to scream, but only bubbles escaped. When he turned to swim up, the water resisted. Not grabbing, not forcing, just holding. The shapes began to move, eyes opened. All of them. Every face turned toward him. And as one, they smiled. A voice moved through the water, soft, steady, everywhere at once. "Breathe with me." Harold's body obeyed. He took another deep breath, and the voice hummed in satisfaction. The water around him shimmered brighter. Threads of light spread outward from his skin, connecting him to the others. Each pulse of his heart matched theirs until he couldn't tell which beat was his own. He tried to think of his cabin, his wife, the sound of air through his lungs. But all of it slipped away like silt in a current. His fingers brushed his face and felt gills where his ribs met his chest. Soft folds of skin opening and closing as the water flowed through them. He didn't need to breathe anymore. The lake was breathing for him. Time dissolved. There was no surface, no bottom, just the sound of the water moving, whispering, sighing. He understood now. The lake wasn't killing anyone. It was keeping them, holding them the way lungs hold air, warm, safe, forever. Above him, faint light filtered down, moonlight trembling through the rippling surface. For a moment, he thought he saw movement up there. A figure on the dock. A man. Someone watching the lake, the same way he once had. The water pulsed. The voice whispered again, gentle, familiar, his own now. Breathe with me. The figure on the dock leaned forward. The lake inhaled. It was already targeting its next victim. Some places don't take you all at once. They wait. They listen. And when your breath matches theirs, you're already gone. If you ever find yourself near still water that ripples in time with your heartbeat, don't breathe. Not once. You've been listening to Camp Creeps. We'll see you next time by the fire, if the water lets you go. If you made it this far, you must enjoy the dark. So go on, subscribe to Camp Creeps, like the video, and share it so others can sit with us by the fire. We tell stories here every week, stories you'll never forget. But be careful. If you leave without subscribing, well, the next story might come looking for you. This is Camp Creeps, where the stories don't end when the fire dies.